tomorrow. The MLB draft starts tomorrow night. The White Sox have the 11th pick. The Cubs choose 16th on the first round of the 5-round draft. Dave Edit, WGN Sports.
Your money on WGN. Here's Orion Samuelson.
Continuing to look at a mixed market on Wall Street today. Today is day number 1 of the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee meeting that will end tomorrow. Not expecting any changes in the interest rate, but there will be a news conference at the end of the session tomorrow. The S&P 500 and the Dow fell today, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ hit a record high for the third straight session as investors eyed this week's Federal Reserve meeting. And in a bright spot in the markets today, the Tiffany stock up a little more than 2%, as the luxury jeweler said it had amended certain of its debt agreements in order to have sufficient liquidity to navigate the virus outbreak. So let's look at the numbers. Dow Industrial Average is down 203 points. The S&P 500 is down 19 points. And the NASDAQ trading higher, it's up 48 points. We've talked about the travel industry and the impact the pandemic has had on their earnings. And today, the International Association of Air Transport forecasts that airlines are set to lose $84 billion as the pandemic reduces revenue by half to mark the worst year in the history of the airline sector. And the average loss amounts to almost $38 per passenger flown. But then on the other hand, the industry itself, the transportation manufacturing industry, having a challenging time. Boeing deliveries worsened even further in May compared to April as the pandemic impact on airlines added to a year of crisis following the grounding of the 737 MAX planes. Deliveries are financially important to plane makers because airlines pay most of the purchase price when they actually receive the airplane. The plane maker said it handed over just 4 planes in May, down from 6 it delivered in April, its lowest total for the month in 6 decades, and about 87% fewer airplanes delivered to customers at the same time a year ago. That's your money on 720 WGN.
86 degrees now at O'Hare. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Do you want your basement to be dry most of the time? If so, Permaseal is not the company for you. At Permaseal, we believe your basement should be dry all the time, no matter how hard it rains. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. I hear story after story of homeowners who say their basement only leaks when it rains. Well, you don't worry about your living room or bedroom getting wet when it rains, and you should feel the same way about your basement. Just call 800-421-SEAL. We offer a free estimate, no haggle pricing, and a price assurance guarantee, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best value. Your basement is already dry most of the time, but if you want your basement dry all the time, you know who to call. 800-421-SEAL. Permaseal has earned an A+ rating from the BBB and has received their 2016 Torch Award for Marketplace Ethics. That's 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
Known best for being better, Permaseal.
Dollar, dollar, that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me?
Afternoon, it's 12:09. This is the Wintrust Business Lunch. This is John Williams. You're listening to WGN Radio Business Lunch, produced by Pete Zimmerman. We appreciate you joining us. Amy Guth will say hi to us a little later in the next half hour with a variety of business stories. We'll start with John Najarian in just a moment. I'm looking at the screen, and the S&P is red. The Dow is down 208 points. It was up more than that this time yesterday. But the NASDAQ is up, 0.5%. So it's a mixed screen to start the day.
Yeah, but in the springtime, if you had said that the Dow would be down 4% year to date, you would have taken that, right?
I am amazed at what's happening, Stephen. I keep thinking the other shoe is going to drop. Is that the phrase? I keep thinking we're not going to get away with this. And this is that the market is going to creep back up gradually, but consistently. That small consolation to people who just don't have work, right? But if nothing else, if the market is at least positive, people's retirements are going to be more preserved than crashed, then we'll take that. And you're absolutely right. If I thought, wow, we could get this and this quickly, I would take it. And if you said to me that it's not going to go back down, I would be really pleased. But that's the question, isn't it, Steve? Is it going to go back the other way? Is something else going to catch up with this? And it's not going to keep moving up to, well, we're 27.3 right now. 27.3.
That's why you have experts like Nigerian to ask.
Okay, let's put him on then. Although John has actually not joined us yet. He'll be on in just a second from marketrebellion.com. And then if you want to go back to when Donald Trump was elected and say, I mean, depending on how far back you draw the line, you can get an uphill graph. And you actually don't have to go back that far. That's, again, no consolation if you're also retiring right now and you need to start drawing down some of your accounts at a loss. But if you're lucky enough to avoid doing that, you want to think, wow, maybe we're going to get away with this. But that's the $64 question. Is this going to be a W? Is there going to be another dip? Or is it going to keep going up, up, up? The Dow up to 27.3 right now. We're off 200 points on the day. We were up almost double that this time yesterday. The S&P 500 is down 0.5%, and the NASDAQ, which is a broader array of stocks, of course, is up 0.5%. That's trading at 9,900 right now. 9,973 is where the NASDAQ is. John's not ready yet to go, is he? Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll take a quick break. If John can't join us, we'll get our next guest online. Steve, why don't you then give us markets and weather, and we'll pick it up from here. What have you got, Steve?
Well, it's a hot, sticky day. There could be some storms moving in a little bit later, windy as well. The high today will be right around 90 degrees, and that's when the showers and thunderstorms will move in today and tonight, and then a chance of some rain tomorrow as well. Right now at O'Hare, it is 86 degrees. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 212 points, the NASDAQ up 45, and the S&P 500 down 19.
And seeing a few issues inbound on the Eisenhower right now. There's a crash in the right lane at Morgan. There's also a reported car fire on the ramp to the southbound side of the tri-state, so you're going to want to avoid that. Otherwise, most major roadways look good. Just a few stop-and-go points on I-80 East between Larkin and Briggs. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
Your health and well-being are top of mind right now. That includes your financial security. At Wintrust Mortgage, we can help. We offer refinance solutions so you can take advantage of low rates to reduce payments. And we have the sophisticated technology to let you go through the process conveniently from home. Uncertainty can add stress to an already tense time. Rely on us. Visit wintrustmortgage.com/refi. Wintrust Mortgage is a division of Barrington Bank and Trust Company, N.A. NMLS number 449042. Equal housing lender.
Hey guys, don't mind me as I interrupt your radio program. It's Sue Cosner, sexual health expert on men's performance in the bedroom. Do me a favor and don't touch that dial. That's a mistake. If you've been listening to this radio station, you've probably heard a compelling radio ad for Noxitril, the potent all-natural male enhancement pill. Men constantly reach out and ask me, does this Noxitril really work? Or is it just another scam product? I can tell you there's nothing better than Noxitril. I recommend this super pill to men everywhere. It will transform your life in the bedroom once and for all. Strong, powerful results that increase your blood flow fast. No prescription, no side effects. Just imagine Viagra on steroids. So call Noxitril now and take advantage of an incredible free bottle offer shipped discreetly to your door.
Call right now and get your free supply. Call 800-480-8329. That's 800-480-8329. It's like Viagra on steroids. Improve your sex life with your free supply. Call 800-480-8329. That's 1-800-480-8329.
You've stared at the same yard, the same deck. Do you have a scorching case of QRS? Quarantine redecorating syndrome. It's real. We'll tell you what some people are doing to turn their yards into adventures. With me, Anna Davlantes, at 1 o'clock here on WGN.
WGN.
Early early morning. Stay safe and stay connected with Morgan Kochmeyer's weather forecasts and Sarah Jindra's traffic reports. Weekdays from 4 to 6 on WGN TV Morning News. Here it is early June. We've already seen temperatures in the 90s, and it feels like that right now. If you've got old drafty windows and doors, you must be worried about your home staying cool enough this summer. Call Next Door and Window. They'll provide you a free virtual appointment. You'll video conference with one of their experts to discuss your upcoming project. You share your vision, they share their expertise. You'll get a free quote without ever leaving your home or need for anybody to come into yours, and you'll love their approach. We sure did at our place. I've talked a lot about it. We've had windows installed in our condo, and we're going to have them put in either windows or a sliding door, too. The pros at Next Door and Window are never pushy. They listen. They assess your needs, your style, and your budget, and they match it with just what you want and what they've got it all. Wood, vinyl, fiberglass windows and doors. So say goodbye to drafty windows and doors and high energy bills in a hot house. You've always got that one room that never gets cold in the cool in the summer or warm enough in the winter. That was our case, and it's not anymore. Get 50% off installation on windows and doors and no interest financing for 18 months. With no money down? Wow. Call 1-800-NEXT-DOOR or go to 1-800-NEXTDOOR.com. John Najarian joins us. Hold on a second, John. I'll push that button there, and you'll be able to join us from MarketRebellion.com. Hi, John. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing extremely well today, John. Thank you.
I'm reading from Forbes.com, by the way, and this is a point Steve and I were making just a moment ago. The headline is Too Far, Too Fast. Stunning rally pauses for a breath as the Fed meetings get underway. The Fed's meeting today and tomorrow. This is an article in Forbes, and they're talking about how, okay, we've been doing pretty well on the recovery side after that amazing drop in the markets, and now people are wondering if it's going to continue in this direction. And they say what's also stunning is how the market continues to just climb and climb despite the economy still being in a pretty messy shape. Last Friday's jobs report came in far better than almost anyone probably expected, though no one would call a 13% reading on unemployment good. There's definitely a dichotomy taking place between the market and the rest of the economy. A lot of Americans continue to suffer, and that's not necessarily ending soon. Plus, that 13% number has an asterisk by it now, John. So it really is a tale of two worlds, the markets and the jobs.
Very true. And I think the easiest explanation, not that you need that, John, nor your audience, because you're both pretty shrewd. I think the easiest explanation is that most of what we're talking about are capitalization-weighted indexes. What does that mean? That means that the stocks influence the price of that index the most. Conversely, the least valuable stocks within that index the least. So you would expect, as many people have said, that the top five stocks like Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, those sorts, would influence the price of the S&P 500 dramatically, and they have. I'm always stunned when the few times that people actually tell me, well, it's not reflective of the economy. It's not meant to be. It never was meant to be. I mean, if I wanted something reflective of the economy, I can find it for you. I could go for the service sector and, health and leisure, leisure in particular, travel, restaurants, hotels, cruise lines. I mean, if we want to go there, Uber, Lyft, all that stuff, and many of those have already seen some recoveries. But these are two different questions, really. So I think what we were shocked by last week was the improvement beyond the city of New York, which is where most of our broadcasts come from for news these days. Whether it's CNBC, whether it's Fox, whether it's CNN, most of those broadcasts about finance are coming from New York. And they don't have a clue because they're still locked down, quite frankly, John. I did an Apple study yesterday. Apple does this for free. They let you use their mobility app, which shows you the mass of everybody in Illinois or everybody in New York, everybody in Texas that has a cell phone, and if they're moving or not. In New York, they're locked down in Texas, in Florida, in Georgia, in many parts of the United States, and I don't just mean those 4 or 5, I mean in many parts of the United States, including Indiana, where I was over the weekend, people are out like this never happened. Literally out like this never happened. I mean, this is, again, it's the virus was the catalyst, but then these lockdowns.
And in Texas, I noticed, so hopefully John's be able
around the country.
In Texas, I was just reading this morning that they're seeing a spike in coronavirus cases. And by the way, maybe
yes,
the people...
but not hospital use and not ICUs. So in other words, to get to herd immunity, which some people would say is somewhere between 25 and 70% of the population has had a given virus, whether it's Hong Kong flu, SARS, MERS, or this one, COVID-19, you need to get to a herd immunity. You don't get to that when everybody's locked down. No way you can get to that when everybody's locked down. So your choices are you really wait until you have a vaccine, or in which case everybody's broke, or you let the most healthy within the population get that immunity by going out and intermixing with each other. Again, I would say, John, you're exactly right. Texas, big spike in cases. How's the spike in hospital use, hospital beds, and ICUs? Non-existent. So, I mean, if we really want to hurt the economy, we can continue to do it, or we could pay attention to people getting this, and then at least, if you can believe anything that WHO or CDC say, you can get it from a surface. No, you can't. Don't wear a mask. Do wear a mask. So many different things about this virus that have been flat out wrong that I think it's really dangerous to continue to hurt the economy by keeping people locked down.
You think then more states should do what they are doing in Texas?
Yes, absolutely. And then you look at, for instance, here's another data point, Open Table. We both know that Open Table and Yelp and TripAdvisor, they all will help you book restaurants and so forth. In Texas, in Florida, in Arizona, in Indiana, you can go through all of this online. They are seeing restaurants booking at 65, 70% numbers. So not the 20%, we don't know if we do this, if people will even go out. 60 and 70% of capacity numbers. And then you look at, sadly, something like New York, and it's at 5%. I mean, all those businesses that were hurt already, John, you continue to hurt them, keeping them locked down. And I think there'll be a big difference in the way people view how these different states and cities applied these lockdown measures versus those that decided to start reopening. And again, if you see a spike in cases, that's what you expect when people go outside. But do you see a spike in hospital bed use and ICUs? And the answer so far is no.
Orion Samuelson wants to join this conversation too. Jump in there, O.
Okay, I have a question for John because of this headline on Reuters. Online used car seller Vroom's shares climbed 83% today in its market debut. How long will that last?
What's the name of that, Orion? Do that first.
Vroom. They're running TV commercials. Yeah, they're the used car seller, and they made their debut on the stock market yesterday, and today they're up 83% in the first full day of trading.
Online used car sales,
And you've seen, as Orion would tell you, similar outperformance versus dealerships over at Carvana, where they will literally they have the same business plan. They will you see the car online or on your phone, you can have it delivered to you, touchless delivery, and then you have 7 days to decide, am I keeping this car or sending it back and swapping it for another? I think both, Orion, are great in terms of how well the public will enjoy that, because a lot of us are going to shop anyway for virtually everything online, comparing prices and so forth, and then to have them deliver this thing to you rather than driving out to a dealership. A lot of dealers are starting to do it too now, of course, but it's just on a national basis. Vroom and Carvana are the two that really do this delivery process.
Well, because when I fly to Phoenix, right next door to the airport in Phoenix is a car vending machine that Carvana has built. And it's strange to look at this tall building with windows and cars in every window. So it's an unusual thing.
Yeah.
But when you see an 83% increase in the first day, is that tending to last, or will that sell off?
Well, that particular one, Vroom, was really in the right place at the right time for this IPO. And the fact that they priced the initial offering, at 22, they knew they had far more demand than that. And as you've seen time and time again, Orion, if you price them low enough, you can see, and right now it is, up 107%. From that opening. It's trading $45.55 right now, up $23. So the demand was clearly there. Yeah,
but I can see why. But I see, guys, why this would be very appealing right now. But I'm, to be honest with you, one of those people that likes the idea of meeting the dealer. We don't love the little dance you do where they talk to the manager, so on and so forth. But I want to touch the car, I want to see the car, I want to drive the car, then I want to go across the street to the other guy, and I'll make an afternoon of that. And I kind of like the relationship I'll have with my car dealer. Am I an outlier here?
I share the feeling with you, John.
Yeah, you're more like the rest of us, but I would say that number one, millennials aren't really as interested in buying cars anyway. We all know that. They want the experiential. They don't buy cars. They don't buy apartments. They want to rent, and they want to ride in Ubers, and then occasionally they'll, use a rental car if they have to. But for the most part, they're relying on Uber or Lyft or any of the other. There are apparently about 5 other competitors in that space, depending what city we're talking about. So I think those, for the younger folks who don't trust that dealer experience, they don't mind seeing what the price is, seeing what the dealer's price is, and then the Carvana or the Vroom site says, yep, we'll match that and we'll deliver the car to your house.
Fascinating sector, and just another one of those businesses we're discovering have been there all along and we're just noticing, or suddenly they've popped up in the last 3 months as a result of COVID-19. We have 2 minutes left, and guys, I just wanted John to comment one more time on the point he was making a moment ago, and that is that he thinks that these governors, say, need to be more aggressive about opening up their economies. You aren't seeing a huge rush back to the hospitals. Hospitalizations are not peaking like maybe the incidences of COVID-19 are as these states try and reopen their economies. But I think what holds maybe back some of that, even if I was on page with you, John, is that some people will go to the hospital and some people will die as a result. I guess that's just a trade that some deciders, right? Some well-intended politicians just have to make, huh?
Right. And at some point, they run out of other people's money, as Margaret Thatcher, I believe, said. At some point, you run out of other people's money. And for you to keep a state locked down, and restaurants, I mean, you can't survive long. Ask JB sometime, JB Pritzker, how long he thinks the state can survive on DoorDash and Postmates and Uber Eats taxes, because that's all he's getting when he keeps this place locked down. He's not getting the rest of our spending. Most of it is just for the minor amounts of tax revenue that they're getting from this. There have been no furloughs as far as I could tell. I was talking to a politician this weekend from Illinois, and he couldn't name me any furloughed employees. I'm not rooting for furloughed
You're talking about state employees, government employees.
I wasn't rooting. Yep, and I never root for people to be laid off. But I said, so we are running an absolutely astronomical deficit, and how do we intend to pay for it? I mean, it's absolute silence. There is not a word on the other side of that. And eventually,
I talked to Austin Berg about that from the Illinois Policy Institute. In fact, Orphe Devangi is going to join us in a little while from the IPI in just a moment, and they're very critical of JB for that California has furloughed and decreased the salaries of thousands of people. Michigan has done it. A lot of these states have done it because people either can't work or they're working at home in a limited capacity, and the state doesn't have the revenue to pay them. The private sector, folks aren't working. And some of you are getting an extra $600, but the private sector is taking it on the chin. The government sector is not, and Illinois is not furloughing or cutting the pay of people. And I think that's an interesting criticism of J.B. Pritzker, because you hate to see people lose their paychecks, but if you can't do your job right now, maybe you shouldn't be getting paid or getting paid as much right now.
Right. Well, again, and all of it comes back to when do you open up? And I would hope that the most vulnerable to the disease, which are people over 70, people that have obesity or type 2 diabetes or other respiratory illnesses or pre-existing conditions, or if you live with somebody like that, by all means, be safe. I'm not telling you to go out and get infected. But if you're the rest of the population and you stay locked down, there will be no revenue for you, for your family, or for any of the social safety net that we have for the rest of our fellow citizens here. I mean, it's ludicrous. They have to make a move, and hopefully they'll make a move pretty quick, John.
John Najarian is the founder of MarketRebellion.com. Thanks for your time this afternoon, John.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'm glad you jumped in. Let's jump into the WGN Radio Newsroom.
It is 86 degrees. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Bertrand. The news sponsored by Cars for Kids. Chicago cancels now its summer festivals because of the pandemic. First, a look at traffic. Here's Lauren Lapka.
Kennedy stop and go inbound from Ohio. It's just 20 minutes from O'Hare and no delays on the outbound side, but the express lanes are closed until about 1 or 1:30. Traffic is heavy inbound on the Eisenhower from Ogden. It's a half hour in from Route 390. Outbound side looks good. No issues on the Stevenson or the Dan Ryan. Roadwork on I-80-94 West is blocking the entrance ramp at Grant and will until June 30th. And in Waukegan, an accident has now shut down Glen Rock Avenue between Jackson and Washington Street. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
The forecast from the Permaseal Weather Center: windy, warm, humid today, showers and storms likely. A high around 90 degrees, wind gusting up to around 45 miles an hour. Showers and storms likely tonight, down to 70, windy still. And then tomorrow, windy, a chance of rain, and a high near 80. 86 right now at O'Hare, 87 at Midway. It is 83 degrees at Chicago's lakefront. The city has canceled Taste of Chicago, Lollapalooza, and more as the pandemic continues. On a brighter note, the region is on track to move into Phase 4 in a couple of weeks. An off-duty Chicago police officer is in fair condition after being shot on the city's south side this morning. The shooting happened around 3:15 near 39th and Artesian. That's in the Brighton Park neighborhood. And the private funeral service for George Floyd is underway. Among those attending are the families of other high-profile African Americans who died in confrontations with police. Your money on WGN. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is off its low now, down 170 points. The Nasdaq up 61, and the S&P 500 down 13. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Secretary of State facilities are now open, but until July 31st, only new drivers and those with expired licenses and IDs will be served. Vehicle stickers can also be renewed. There's no need to rush in. All expiration dates have been extended, and the Real ID deadline is now October 2021. Safety measures, including social distancing, are in place, so please be patient. Avoid lines by renewing online or by phone. For more information, visit cyberdriveillinois.com.
Save today on your next project with 11% off everything. Now at Menards. Menards has what you need to start and finish your projects. Plus, you'll save 11% on all of it. Menards offers contactless pickup. Order and pay for your items online, and we'll load your order into your vehicle with zero contact. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through June 13th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
12:34 on the Wintrust Business Minute. I'm John Williams. Orphe Devungi joins us again from the Illinois Policy Institute. We were just talking about you guys a moment ago with John Najarian. Orphe, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Chief Economist at the Illinois Policy Institute. Your colleague Austin Berg is a regular on the Mincing Rascals podcast, and you've been a guest on some of our shows before. We've also been able to read you in the Washington Post and USA Today and CNN. you guys have a report out that talks about the loss of jobs in Illinois and how it is particularly hard on people of color and, for that matter, particularly hard on black and brown females, correct?
That's correct. So, yeah, we reported about the state of Illinois economic activity falling by about $183 million per day in quarter one of this year. And now we're learning that most of the job losses, they didn't hit everyone equally. They fell particularly hard on women, but specifically on minority women. So 1 in 5 black women lost their job. 1 in 5 Hispanic women lost their job. So COVID-19 and the measures to control its spread have actually harmed minorities and exacerbated the employment gap between whites and blacks in the state of Illinois.
Can you talk more about what those jobs are? I presume they were in the service sector, that sort of thing?
Oh, absolutely. You know, ever since the state governors across the country decided to deem some industries and occupations essential and others non-essential, you had a large number of people in the retail sectors losing their jobs to the lockdowns, and a lot of them were women, but also minorities, and that's really, really unfortunate.
But those jobs are also some of the jobs that have been preserved, right? That is, if you're a checker at a grocery store, a lot of the contact that people have with the economy today are people serving or servicing them, and a lot of times those are people of color, correct? That's why the incidence of COVID-19 is higher in the black and brown communities.
So, to some extent, right? So you have a lot of police officers, that they're essential workers. Essentially, a lot of black women are essential workers, registered nurses, nursing assistants. But you also have a lot of these. Roughly, I think in my data set, I saw about 22% of the top occupations being occupations that basically fit in that category of non-essential, and so that's hit them really hard. But absent from the public policy debate, the public health debate in Illinois, is also the fact that unemployment actually hurts health outcomes, and that people who are unemployed tend to have stress-related conditions that are also raise issues with COVID-19, hospitalization rates, and put them more at risk. So really, we should consider those factors, and public health policy should not end up hurting the communities that it's trying to protect in the first place.
So what are you all recommending? Do you draw a conclusion based on these numbers?
Oh, absolutely. This is really good data. The NBER published a paper not too long ago that actually shows that the best types of lockdowns are not these broad, widespread, we're going to shut down vast industries. It's mostly targeted. Targeted lockdowns. A targeted lockdown that, we have really good medical records, for example, right? So some people are more at risk of hospitalization than other people. And shutting down the entire economy could have been avoided, and it would have resulted, not shutting down the economy would have resulted in less health damage, but also economic damage being caused now by these lockdowns. So that's kind of my first recommendation. The second one is we need to we need a strong labor market recovery. If minorities have been disproportionately harmed, a strong recovery would help them get back to work. 4 decades worth of data show us that in downturns, blacks are first to lose their jobs, but in strong, robust labor market recoveries, discrimination in the labor market falls, and the gap between whites and blacks actually diminishes. So we really want to promote a strong labor market recovery in order to help the less fortunate get back to work and earn a living again.
Or if you mentioned a targeted shutdown, targeted restrictions, how does that work? Because the virus crosses all barriers. So it's indiscriminate. How does a targeted shutdown work?
Absolutely. So the research shows that people have completely different risks associated with COVID-19, right? So some people are more prone to hospitalization because of pre-existing conditions. And, our medical records are pretty good, so that we know, when someone is more at risk or not because they have a pre-existing condition. And so shutting down the entire economy is not the right approach. If we had recommended some people to stay home because of their pre-existing conditions, instead of shutting down the economy, we could have avoided much of the economic damage.
Hold it right there, though. So, pardon me, if you are you suggesting then that if in the beginning, in March, they said because of this, the elderly, the frail, the people with pre-existing conditions, you should stay home, but the businesses will stay open, the restaurants will stay open. Is that the world you imagine?
Absolutely. At least that's what the research shows. So I'm not a public health expert, but I'm an economist, and economic research actually shows that even though economic activity had begun to decline prior to the lockdowns, by the way, it started to decline slowly prior to the lockdown because individuals on their own started to perceive the risk, the real risk of getting sick, and even a number of offices had temporarily closed their doors because they wanted to avoid their workers getting sick. So people perceive the risk, and knowing the risk, they reduce their mobility, they reduce their economic activity on their own, and then later on we learned that lockdowns accounted for more than half of job losses, by about 60% of all job losses, which basically indicates that a targeted lockdown instead of a widespread lockdown would have saved us a lot of economic pain that ended up disproportionately harming minorities and women.
If what Orphy is saying is ammo for your argument, or maybe you disagree and you want to read further, either way, Orphy Devungi's report at the Illinois Policy Institute is available at illinoispolicy.org. Go to illinoispolicy.org. Black Hispanic women hit hardest after Illinois decreed which jobs were non-essential. Good to hear you again, Orphy. Thanks for helping us out today.
Thanks for having me, John.
Orphy Devungi is the chief economist at the IPI. It's time for the Wintrust Business Minute on WGN.
Wind the clock. It's time for the Wintrust Business Minute, your daily roundup of Chicago area business news. Illinois businesses and nonprofits have received $22 billion under the federal government's Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. That comes from more than 185,000 separate loans. There have been 4.5 million loans nationwide. While we're talking billions, the Tribune says there have now been nearly 100 events canceled at McCormick Place. They would have had a $1.4 billion impact on the local economy. The biggest and most recent is the International Manufacturing Technology Show. And Chicago Inno says 2 Chicago organizations that have gained attention for missions to expand and strengthen Chicago's tech community have launched a new program to help provide inexpensive computer science education to students. P33 and Discovery Partners Institute are calling the initiative Tech Ready Illinois. I'm Steve Bertrand. That's the Wintrust Business Minute.
Thank you, Steve Bertrand. I know that story Steve's talking about is something that Amy Guth is going to talk about a little more, too. Some of those numbers are just staggering around the loss of this convention and conventions generally in Chicago and in Illinois. Back into Traffic Central. Lauren Lapka, what do you see?
Just a few bad accidents. One in Waukegan is blocking Glen Rock Avenue between Jackson and Washington. Over in Killdeer, there's a crash blocking the eastbound side of Cuba Road between Quinton and Kruger. There's also an accident in Libertyville at Milwaukee and Casey, and a crash in Harwood Heights at Lawrence and Alcott. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
Steve Bertrand, how are the markets?
Dow's down 166 points. That's off the low for the day. The NASDAQ up 75 and the S&P 500 down 11.
And then back to Orion, who I think is in the market for a new or used car, based on
not yet
this conversation and interest in that one stock with John Najarian. What are you looking at, O?
We're looking at a red screen on the grain market. The July wheat contract down 8 1/4 cents a bushel. July corn down 6 1/4 cents, and July soybeans are trading down 2 cents a bushel. Livestock futures, the numbers there look like this at the Mercantile Exchange. The June lean hog contract down 45 cents a hundredweight, and the June live cattle contract is trading higher. It's up $2.62, and the August feeder cattle contract is up $1.55. One of the important weed control products is in the news today, dicamba, which is a popular tool for weed management in soybean crops. And the Environmental Protection Agency has now provided some clarity on the use of the dicamba products following a U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit Court June 3rd ruling vacating current U.S. registrations of this important weed management tool. But in the announcement today, the Environmental Protection Agency said that effective on this date, those dicamba products owned by farmers and agricultural retailers, if they're in their hands from June 3rd until July 31st, those dicamba products can be used. So if you have those products in your storage bin for the crop planting season and soybeans, check with your dealer to find out more about this. But if you use them before July 31st, that order will not apply to you. The Illinois FFA Association is starting a historical convention today, a state convention without people in the auditorium. It will be a virtual convention that'll go through Thursday. They'll conduct business as usual, but they'll do it with technology and not with real people. And then the other points that we're, again, making just about every day, if you have a county fair or a state fair in your area that has canceled because of the pandemic, let me know so I can put it on the air and let people know. We already know the DuPage County Fair and the Ogle County Fair and quite a few other county fairs are canceled. And we know the Indiana State Fair and the Wisconsin State Fair, both canceled. Still waiting to hear from fairs like the Sandwich Fair and like the other state fairs in the Midwest. That's Ag for the moment. I'm Orion Samuelson.
Thank you, Obe. You get rid of a car, whether it's a few years old or downright ancient, Cars for Kids will take your car in any condition. They've got over 100 towers ready to pick up your car fast. That's why thousands of people ditched selling their cars and donated instead. A great service has earned Cars for Kids an average 4.9 star rating in the process. Try it for yourself. Call 877-CARS-4-KIDS or go to carsforkids.com and schedule a contact-free pickup. They don't just say it's convenient, it really is. When you donate to Cars for Kids, you're not stuck haggling with potential buyers and wondering if you got a good deal. They offer you the best way to get rid of your car and get a full tax deduction. No shady buyers, no lowball offers, no pressure. With Cars for Kids, you get professional service, a convenient pickup, tax deduction, a good deed. Donate today at carsforkids.com. Remember, that's cars with a K. There's no doubt about the following things. The weather will get better and warmer. We're all going to get through this dang pandemic, and your knee is not going to get any better on its own. This is John Williams encouraging you to go to the Joint Relief Institute as soon as you can. They're in Orland Park in Oak Brook. They'll use digital imaging so you and they can see where your knee is deteriorated. And then they'll put a lubricant into the precise spot where that tissue's gone away, and it works. It's a quick, pain-free, non-surgical procedure, and that first visit is free. They're an essential business, by golly, and taking care of that knee pain is essential to your well-being. So as the weather gets better, and as we tippy-toe back out into this new world, I want you to walk with confidence, with a pain-free gait. I want you to get that knee taken care of. Start by visiting the Joint Relief Institute at jointreliefinstitute.com or call 708-888-0000. 708-888-0000, as in zero pain. 12:49 now, reporting on the business scene, Amy Guth. Amy, we were talking about Steve was anyway, in the Wintrust Business Minute about the loss of another convention at McCormick Place. Why don't we start there today and talk just a little bit about the impact that has on the city, the state, and all of those vendors, too?
Yeah, definitely. So this is the International Manufacturing Technology Show. They now say they will not be back until 2022, which is a long way off. You know, early on when we first saw that first big show cancellation at McCormick Place, I think there was a lot of speculation of, okay, this is such a big economic driver. Let's really watch this very closely to kind of look at this impact. You know, the other part of it that I think is really important to really pay attention to is that the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority, which is the agency that runs McCormick Place, and things like the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority that owns Guaranteed Rate Field, things like that, they're having to kind of pull into their reserves to balance their budgets and deal with debt this year because they rely so much on taxes from this kind of stuff, right? So these public facilities. So this is a even deeper budget hole for something like McCormick Place, and I think it's really brought home just how deep that impact is, because we're thinking about the impact of hotel rooms not booked and restaurants not dined in and all those kind of things. So this particular event that is held every other year, it was scheduled to bring about 130,000 attendees to McCormick Place, and that would account for just under 100,000 stays in Chicago hotels. So that is a really, really significant number. When that's already a big hit to their budget this year, here's yet another.
I think the number I saw was $250 million is the economic impact they think this event has, which you want to look at that twice. That can't be real, but that's the number they're reporting. $250 million of revenue to the city or money spent in the area gets lost. Amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because when you're thinking about if you go to a conference out of town, you're buying lunch, you're going out to dinner, you're staying in a hotel room, you're probably doing some tourist stuff and sightseeing, taking cabs or Ubers or Lyfts and getting on the CTA and doing all this stuff that, people spend money when they're traveling. And that is such a huge number. When we start seeing those kinds of numbers, that's when it really drives home, several of these big events having this hit on McCormick Place. That's when we're starting to see that really, really add up. In a moment when the city is already saying we're going to need even more federal aid to get through and fill these budget holes, here's yet another place that where we're seeing that the dam is leaking.
So they say they'll be back in 2022, but I wonder why they're skipping 2021. This is June of 2020. So I wonder why they are absolutely saying they're not going to come back next year, or do they not do it every year?
They don't do it every year. This is an event that is every other year because it is so humongous. I mean, this is really one of the biggest hits that McCormick Place has taken so far. It's really, I don't think it's too far to say it's the biggest event. It's so huge. So they don't even try to do it every year because I think that would just be such a huge undertaking. Even so, that impact is so giant. So they plan to be back in 2022. I'm sure there was, they're thinking of like, well, maybe you just shift to odd years instead of even years.
Yeah,
but they're going to stay on that track, and that's where we are.
Maybe they could do like the Olympics and say, okay, it won't be this year, it'll be next year, just because we don't want to wait another 2 or 4. This is the International Manufacturing Technology Show. Talk to me about the airlines. What's the news on that front?
Yeah, really similar narrative arc to that last story. And so the IATA, which is, the International Air Transportation Association, so they're dealing with all the airlines. What they have forecast today is that revenue would likely fall to $419 billion from $838 billion. That is a humongous loss. To break that down even further, the Director General said every day of this year will add $230 million to industry losses, which is such a staggering number. It's almost too much to even get your head around. That's just so huge. But when you start breaking that down by carrier and by supplier, you and I have talked about the issues that Boeing has had. They only delivered, I think, 4 aircraft this past month in May. And, they've had a year plus of woes after their 737 MAX has been grounded. Then you're seeing individual airline carriers having issues with cutting flights, some of their most lucrative flights, international travel still being so disruptive. The upside of that is that the IATA prediction is that in 2021, there's probably going to be a very high incentive for people to travel, which usually translates into a lot of deals, maybe some extra perks for loyalty members and to join the airline as a loyalty member, things like that, maybe extra perks if you get the credit card, things like that. So it's probably going to be a very, very competitive year ahead. Even such, airlines are talking about a very long recovery. They recognize that just because it opens doesn't mean people are going to necessarily be comfortable flying be comfortable leaving the country, things like that. So, I mean, we talked a little bit yesterday about how Airbnb is seeing that trend reflected of people aren't really getting on planes as much as they're looking at road trips and looking at things closer by where perhaps they feel like they can control more of the variables in there. But yeah, so for IATA to say, to be talking about that big a jump in revenue, that really speaks to this. It's not overstating at all to say this is absolutely an historic moment for the airline industry and the worst hit they've taken.
They say time is money, and if you lose time, you lose money. You just don't get that back. But I do find myself leaning into something you just suggested, and that is maybe when we do come back, we'll come back with an even greater appetite for air travel or vacations or trade shows or the products sold at trade shows, all of these things that are getting lost. And while that won't maybe replace what we've lost, one sure hopes that the appetite for these products, services, and destinations will still be there, and that these industries will get back on their feet, that they, of course they will, but that they'll get back on quickly, and that they'll get back on with the demand that is pent up that will make up maybe for some of the loss. But
that's right. And, I think a lot of that has to do with what plays out with the pandemic. Do we see that second wave in the fall? What happens in terms of a treatment, and how far away is a vaccine? And I think that's really, because those big conventions, whether they want to come back or not, until we're in phase 5 in Illinois, we won't see them here. So, when we see, like just the other day, South Africa said, we're just not going to have any international travel until early 2021. I mean, that's a country that really leans a lot on travel. And they're just saying, we're not going to do it. No, you can travel domestically, but you cannot travel. We don't want anybody from anywhere else but South Africa coming in here. So, that's when countries are doing things like that, when we're seeing a required 14-day quarantine to travel somewhere, things like that, I think it just kind of puts a damper and complicates that even if people are willing, there's still just other things we don't know yet. We have to wait and see. And there's just, I think that plus people's concerns really add up to what I fear will be a long recovery for some of these, pieces that depend on travel so much. And, of course, locally, that tax revenue, that amusement tax, things like that, that's a big, big economic piece for our budget in the state and city. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how that continues to play out, how fast that recovery goes, and what that recovery looks like.
Amy Guth reports on business here on WGN. Thanks, Amy. We'll visit again.
Thanks, John.
WGN Radio News. That comes up next.
If it's Tuesday, it's Tuesdays with Tom. Tom Skilling will be here to tell us when our once sunny, now stormy weather will turn sunny again. Rocon at 3.
WGN.
Eric?
Yeah, back here in the laundry, babe.
So listen, I was...
Hey, watch out for your dad's underwear. It's still damp.
What are you doing?
Well, your mom's okay with me using the laundry for weight training. I could store my dumbbells in the dryer. Hey, look, I put a piece of plywood over the sink here, and I have a desk for my home office.
Eric, I'm done living in my parents' basement. We really need our own place.
No. Listen, getting our own home is scary.
Honey.
We gotta get a mortgage. It's expensive. It takes forever.
Not with First American Bank. First American is famous for its great loan deals and professional service.
Who's gonna lift your mom up so she could dust the chandelier, huh? Your dad dropped her last time.
First American has bargain rates and lets you do the whole application online. They'll even come to our house to close the deal.
Our own home.
With First American's help.
I am gonna miss your mom's specialty, Vina verse brioche.
Eric, I can make a hot dog on a bun.
Okay, let's get packing.
First American does more for your money. Visit firstambank.com. Call us at 847-952-3700. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
MegaPros proudly remains available for any help you need in or around your home. Yes, we can help in anything you might need. Even if it's just a question, your pros are here to help. It's MegaPros Pleasure. You know you can depend on that.
Coming September 1st to WGN America. News Nation, originating from Chicago, live every night in primetime. Your news, your nation, only on WGN America.
They're men of few words. Now get out of here. And a lot of laughs.
Eat your heart out, Blondie.
Believe me, you don't have to get laughs all the time. Check their classic comedy on Antenna TV on WGN 9.2 and Comcast 353, or check your cable listing.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but thought it would be too difficult? Then try Babbel. Babbel starts by teaching you words and phrases that gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations. So in 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking a new language in a few weeks. Babbel is built around real life. It teaches you practical conversations that you will actually use. Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Serving the great Midwest from Chicago, this is WGN at AM 720 on your radio and on smart devices anywhere just by saying play WGN radio on TuneIn.
WGN Chicago.
A Nexstar Media Group station.
It is 86 degrees at 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Bertrand. The news is sponsored by Rogers Roofing. Taste of Chicago and other festivals this summer canceled because of the pandemic. On Wall Street, the markets are mixed today. And first, a look at traffic. Here's Lauren Lapka.
And this report is sponsored by the Illinois Department of Transportation. Kennedy looks good right now. However, the express lanes are closed, but should reopen sometime within the next half hour. Inbound Eisenhower stop and go from Ashland. It's 27 minutes in from Route 390. Outbound side looks good. There's a crash on I-55 North blocking the shoulder at I-80. No issues on the Stevenson. Traffic is a bit heavy outbound on the Dan Ryan between Garfield and the Skyway, but it's 15 minutes out to 95th. No issues inbound. Also seeing an accident southbound on the Tri-State on the shoulder near 47th, and road work on I-80 94 West is blocking the entrance ramp at Grant until June 30th. Driving responsibly and paying attention are the only ways to stop distracted driving. It really is a matter of life or death. Learn more at lifeordeathillinois.com. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
The forecast from the WGN Chicago Weather Center. Here's meteorologist Paul Conrad.
Look for a warm, muggy afternoon across Chicagoland with very windy conditions and the development of showers and thunderstorms. We'll see temperatures up near the 90-degree mark, and winds could be gusting up to 45, 50 miles per hour. Storms around here tonight and into tomorrow. Tomorrow, a daytime high of 80 degrees, still windy, a 40% chance for rain showers off and on through the daytime hours, and then things dry out. A nice stretch of weather Thursday through Monday of next week with temperatures primarily into the 70s. On Thursday, sunshine, upper 70s. Friday, mid 70s with sunshine. And then for Saturday, a daytime high in the upper 60s with plenty of sunshine both Saturday and Sunday. From the WGN Weather Center, I'm Paul Conrad.
86 degrees at O'Hare, 87 at Midway. It is 84 at Chicago's Lakefront. It's official. All of Chicago's major summer events and festivals have been canceled. Here's WGN's Kim Gordon.
Not a surprise, but Lollapalooza, Taste of Chicago, the Air and Water Show, and Jazz Fest all canceled this year due to the pandemic. The city already announced the cancellation of its summer festivals devoted to gospel, blues, and house music. Normally, hundreds of thousands are drawn to Grant Park for Lollapalooza, and millions line the lakefront for the Air and Water Show. Kim Gordon, WGN News.
George Floyd is to be buried today, a little over 2 weeks after he died at the hands of Minneapolis police officers. His final funeral service is underway in Houston.
God, right now we're in a strange land, and I heard the psalmist say, how can we sing in a strange land? I can sing because I know who reigns. We can sing because we know who God is.
That's Dr. Mae White at the service with the prayer of comfort. Floyd will be buried next to his mother. Police are investigating after an off-duty Chicago police officer was shot and injured on the southwest side this morning. Happened near 39th and Artesian as he approached his car. The officer returned fire, but it's not clear if he hit anyone. Two Chicagoans who claim police used excessive force on them at the Brickyard Mall on the northwest side during the looting and protests are now filing a lawsuit over the confrontation. The family says the confrontation with police is captured on video. Willie Teague is one of the alleged victims.
One officer hits the back right side of the Jeep. The other officer shatters the window. I believe this was done to provoke us to do something wrong.
The incident's being investigated by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. A New York City police officer caught on video shoving a woman to the ground during a Brooklyn protest has been charged with assault. The 28-year-old was released on his own recognizance. And Chicago's marijuana shops begin to reopen today after being closed indefinitely because of the violence. Here's WGN's James Sears.
Every dispensary in Chicago closed a week ago to clean up after looting and vandalism gripped the city. At Sunnyside and River North, looters shattered windows but didn't gain access to the vault where cannabis is stored, though it had already been moved to a secure location. Now it is welcoming customers again, and every day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. James Sears, WGN News.
Your money on WGN. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has been trading in negative territory all day long. It is currently down 208 points. The Nasdaq up 61 and the S&P 500 down 16. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Hello, folks. Orion here again, and if you're in the market for a new Subaru, then Gary Lang Subaru is the name I trust. Right now, experience their touchless car buying system at GaryLangSubaru.com. Simply select your favorite Subaru model from their vast inventory: Legacy, Impreza, Forester, Outback, Crosstrek, or Ascent. Secure your financing, get an instant trade offer, and your car will be delivered to your door. Or you can schedule an appointment in their sanitized showroom. Folks, visit Gary Lang Subaru, just minutes away from anywhere on Route 31 between McHenry and Crystal Lake, or complete your entire purchase online at GaryLangSubaru.com. You can't afford to buy or lease a new Subaru anywhere else. And remember, if it doesn't say Gary Lang on the back, you probably paid too much.
Afternoon, it's Anna, WGN. It's Tuesday, June 9th, and on this Tuesday, June 9th, I would like to make an official proclamation, albeit a non-binding one, but here it is. I'd like to proclaim this. It is time to reopen everything. Let's reopen everything. The lakefront needs to open. Businesses need to open. Restaurants should be allowed to seat indoors. Keep the social distancing, enforce that, make it sensible, protect vulnerable populations. I think we should do all that, but let's reopen. I just feel like it's time. How do you feel? 312-981-7200. Do you feel like it's time, like we can do this? We got this. I don't know what magical date in the future we're all waiting for, because is it a month from now? Is it July 9th? Is it August 9th, September, or December 9th? Without a vaccine, it's kind of on us, right, to figure this whole thing out. Thinking about this so much. And, here's some good news. Good news on the health front. Cases across the state, they're at the lowest daily number since March 30th. We've seen a continued decline in cases. That's good, too. Big improvements across all major health metrics. But you're still stopping businesses from reopening, and you're stopping access to the lakefront. I feel like it just sort of gets silly at some point. If we can figure it out in a way to do it responsibly, and I think we can, they ought to do it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? 312-981-7200. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Okay, here's another part of this whole thing that don't quite understand. Help me out with this. Okay, from the start, a lot of this seemed like sort of arbitrary to me. Big box stores could sell stuff that small businesses could not. Churches couldn't open until the phase after movie theaters. Churches couldn't open until after the movie theaters. They were in a different phase. Navy Pier, that's allowed to be open, but the lakefront is not. Isn't it? We've discussed this. This is kind of part of the lakefront. And then the one thing all along that sort of seemed strange and has kind of got me, I don't know about you, liquor stores and marijuana dispensaries deemed essential right out of the gate, right? They're essential. And don't get me wrong, I have enjoyed an adult beverage or two during all of this. There's no question about that. But just because I have, does it mean it's essential? And when dispensaries, they weren't even legal 6 months ago, and now I mean, they're suddenly essential. The whole thing just seems a little bit arbitrary, and my heart goes out to the small businesses. And I think that's what I'm trying to get to here. Here's my point. What's the point? We continue to ban small businesses who've been through so much. They're on the cusp of losing everything they've built, these business owners. The jobs that people have at risk of permanently going away. We're seeing it over and over. Shops close their doors. And we're basically telling them we're okay with that. We're okay if you close your doors. We're just not going to help you at this point because we can't figure out a way to do it. And I worry that that's not the right answer. The latest battle, here's the one that sort of got me going on all this, because I saw this yesterday and I saw how passionately the brew pubs and taverns and bars are feeling about this. Did you see this? They're being told they're not allowed to open outdoor beer gardens. Can't seat outdoors, not at all. No outdoor beer gardens, nothing like that. Is there, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand that sort of reasoning. What's the behind difference it. between a restaurant having an outdoor seating area? Great point, because here's the deal.
So the mayor was saying, look, when alcohol is consumed, there's likely the risk is going to be that you just don't have as much social distancing. People will let their guard down and it won't happen.
Well, that's true.
Okay, but here's the deal. But here's the deal. Here's why it doesn't make sense. Another point is I just don't understand. Bars that serve a certain amount of food, they can be open. You can sit outside and only drink as much as you want or whatever, but that's allowed.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
But the bar that's the bar is not allowed to exist. They can't open their parking lot. They can't open their outdoor space. Brew pubs can't exist. They're not allowed, and they're pretty upset about it. There was a pretty passionate thing. Well, they went to the city yesterday and made their case, trying to figure out, like, okay, we think we can do this. We've thought through this. Please, city, let us open. Do you think they should be allowed to open? That's the thing. It just starts feeling like, we want them to be around. You want them to have the opportunity to continue and employ people, and it starts to not feel right anymore.
You kind of start to see hypocrisy in the whole decision making.
Yeah. I think that's a piece of it. Let's go to the phones. Bill, go ahead. You're on WGN. Your thoughts on this? Am I wrong about this? Do you agree? What's the deal?
I agree with everything you're saying. We went into this. We didn't know, but now that we're this far along, the flaws have been exposed, and those flaws speak to going, well, we did the best we could, but at this point, reopen, everybody wear masks, do what you got to do, practice social distancing. And the argument of beer gardens not opening because then judgment gets flawed if you're drinking. Well, that's the same thing as saying, well, we're going to take everybody's cars away because that's what leads to drunk driving. The one thing that really makes my skin crawl is when Governor Pritzker gets on and says, every life in Illinois matters. He was not saying that after every weekend in Chicago when multiple people were getting shot and killed. He didn't start saying that until the coronavirus hit. And I'm just tired of all the hypocrisy. One last thing. All these politicians that are, publicly saying defund the police departments.
Yep.
They're just worried. They're just worried about their next election that's coming up. They're trying to put as much space between them and the bad guys as they can. So when they're running for office, they could say, oh, no, not me. I'm don't associate me with the police department. They're bad. And it's so sad because they're just, and we're used to this in Illinois, but they're making statements looking ahead at the reelection because they know that's not a responsible thing to say.
Yeah, the other thing I think when the governor says, I'm doing everything based on science and data, and then anyone who disagrees that somehow your argument isn't supported by science and data. That's the other one I want to get out there. That's all.
Yeah, and he's not doing everything based on science and data, or he wouldn't have taken his family to Florida or up to Lake Geneva or,
Again, a little bit of hypocrisy to go around. Right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And you call back in later. We will be talking about defund police with Representative LaShawn Ford at 2:30, that half hour. Revisit that issue because I don't think we're done with that. A lot more has come up since we discussed it yesterday. Kathy, go ahead. You're on WGN. Your thoughts on this. What do you think?
Yes. After the protest, I'm done with following the rules. I followed the rules to a T up to that point. Everything should be open now. I'm done.
We saw thousands of people take to the streets, and that was deemed okay, and I understand why. Yes. But a guy with a local bar can't open with tables 6 feet apart. He's not allowed to exist, and he's been shut down, maybe looted, who knows what, and he's just trying to fight for survival. They're begging the city, throw us a lifeline, help us out. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm a good person, a law-abiding person. I have followed the rules up until that point, and when everybody was invited to protest without any mention of masks or social distancing. They're kind of doing that now when they have a peaceful protest, but they didn't do it at the beginning. So I am done.
Hey, you say you're done. Are you going out yourself?
Pardon?
Are you going out yourself? Are you a business owner? Tell us from which perspective you sit.
I'm a person on furlough right now, part-time job. I'm a retired person who has a job. and I'm not working, and I miss it. I miss my people. I miss the activity. I miss the swimming pool that I'm supposed to be in right now that I'm not. I want to be out and doing things because I don't have that many years left.
Yeah. I hear you.
And
What
I'm
swimming
done
pool
with
is it? Is it a community pool that's not open yet? Is that what you're
Yes.
referencing, or is it a health
Yeah.
club? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, both. I belong to an indoor one in the winter and an outdoor one in the summer, and neither are open. And I'm upset about that, but I'm just done with. I'll follow the rules up to a point. I'll wear a mask at the store, but that's about it. I'm done. Mentally, it's over for me. After all those people who were involved in the protests got away with it, basically.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for your thoughts. We'll continue to take your calls here, 312-981-7200. We're also going to hear from the brew pub owner who did state the case before the city yesterday, the city licensing committee, I think it was, trying to beg to say, hey, let us reopen. We can figure this out. We can do this. Just give us the chance to make it reasonable. We'll make it safe, but we're fighting for our survival right now. So we're going to hear from him and like to continue to hear from you. Join into the conversation anytime, 312-981-7200. Speaking of what to do outdoors, Kathy just mentioned she doesn't have her swimming pool. And today, the city put out this new guidance for large outdoor events across the city of Chicago, canceling all permitted special events through Labor Day. So I'm just looking at the list here. It looks like, okay, so all the big festivals are done. Lollapalooza's on the list. Hey, Bertrand, did you see this? All the big ones. Water show.
Taste of Chicago. This could be the death knell for Taste of Chicago.
Kind of was waning in popularity in recent years.
Big time, yeah. It's been scaled down over recent years, so we'll see if that comes back.
Yeah, we'll see. And then it goes new and reimagined summer events. Did you see that column of activities? They've new and reimagined the summer events. Basically seems like summer's kind of canceled.
So that means we're going to sit inside and watch something on our computer?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
not a summer event.
I'm not kidding you. I went to do no contact pickup for my daughter's virtual camp the other day, and I got back in the car and I wanted to scream. I'm like, this is not normal. I don't know what to do. But I mean, this isn't camp. But thank you to the listener who sent me the link to the app for virtual marshmallow toasting. That was kind of nice. I'm not sure if we're going to do it or not. But I'm looking at the new... What?
Did you see their new marshmallows now with chocolate inside?
No way. So like good to go, ready for
the s'mores. You just toast up the marshmallow, chocolate melts inside, put on a graham cracker.
Huh. It's kind of the lazy person's s'more.
It's a thinking person's s'more.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected. I'm looking at the reimagined summer events here, though. Are you seeing this Millennium Park at Home? There's a genre-defying music series featuring different local bands, it looks like, musicians, blues, all kinds of stuff. Additionally, they're going to do workouts on alternating weekly schedule of Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, and Zumba. Saturdays. You can do that online. Summer dance in place. You can dance at home in place.
Like shelter in place, dance in place, yeah.
I mean, this does not sound exciting. It's like, what are you doing this summer? Well, I'll be summer dancing in place at home. That's what I'll be doing. Let's see. Beginning in June, a collaboration of local music venues. I'm waiting. We talked about concerts before. I'm waiting to see how these. I didn't check out, what was it? The first festival was last weekend, but all these online festivals are going to have the musicians perform, and I wonder if they'll make it. I mean, I love the music, but it's not the same as sitting outside on a summer night.
No, you need onion rings and a corn dog. It's all about it's the fair food. That's what it's about.
Picnic blankets. It's just the whole thing. The whole thing.
Cheap cups of beer that get warm before you finish them. That's what summer's all about.
Yeah. Bad wine, you just get a big jug of it or something, bring it out there. So that's what they're doing. Chicago Park District, Grant Park Music Festival, other cultural presenters are considering or have already announced alternative, smaller or virtual summer events. So they're trying to re-envision what summer looks like across the city. Keep your calls coming on the subjects of, are you ready for things to just reopen? Can we do this? Do we have this? Can you do it? If you practice social distancing, do you just feel like you're ready for things to just open and not be fighting the business owners anymore about the kinds of restrictions we're placing on them? 312-981-7200. We'll go back to your calls. We'll hear from the brew pub owner who made his case, his respectful but emotional appeal to the city yesterday. He'll weigh in as well as we continue this conversation on WGN.
If it's Tuesday, it's Tuesdays with Tom. Tom Skilling will be here to tell us when our once sunny, now stormy weather will turn sunny again. Row count of 3.
WGN. With the recent rains and wet weather, Permaseal is working very hard to help every homeowner in Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana area. But we need your help. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal Basement Systems. We're hiring in all departments, especially sales, customer service, and installation. We're looking for people with a great work ethic, who have ambition, a positive attitude, want to learn new skills, and have a desire to make the world a better place. Sound like you? Then go to permaseal.net/careers to apply today. No experience needed. We will teach you to become an expert in waterproofing and foundation repairs. Even if you're not presently looking for another job, I'd encourage you to consider working for Permaseal. We offer great training, year-round work, tremendous growth opportunities, and a great, fun work environment. To apply, go to permaseal.net/careers. If you're looking for a career change or a dry basement, you know who to call. Permaseal. 800-421-7325 or go to permaseal.net.
Permaseal. Here's to all the farm and fleet dads, the ones who get the job done right, the ones who work hard and take pride in what they do, the ones who take the time to pass it on. Show your appreciation this Father's Day with a gift you know he'll love from his favorite store, Blaine's Farm and Fleet. For the auto enthusiast dad, 5-quart jugs of Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil are just $15.99 after $12 mail-in rebate. 80-ounce jugs of Power Services Diesel Clean and Cetane Boost, only $11.99. Get $30 off all Kurt trailer hitches, installation available. And Reese swivel jacks with 1,000-pound load capacities, $29.99. For the grillin' dad, save $80 on a KitchenAid 4-burner grill with searing side, only $569.99. And for the chillin' dad, assorted team licensed 2-foot by 3-foot tailgate toss games are just $59.99. Can't decide what to get, Dad? A Blaine's Farm and Fleet gift card is always the perfect gift. Find value at Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
Hi, I'm Dr. Balnandra from Ivy Solution and Ketamine Centers of Chicago. My clinic uses ketamine to conquer chronic pain, migraines, and neuropathy. Our team is committed to providing the best patient outcomes to improve your quality of life. Here's my patient Michelle, who suffered from peripheral neuropathy and chronic pain from her cancer chemotherapy treatment, describing how ketamine from Ivy Solution changed her life.
I am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. After all my treatment was done, I had some really intense side effects, including fatigue, neuropathy, and some pain. I talked with Dr. Balnandra about it. We decided that it was something that could help me. After one infusion, I had complete relief from all of my symptoms.
It's time you conquer your neuropathy and chronic pain. Call for your free consultation in Chicago or Kansas City, 844-9-IV-MEDS. That's 844-948-6337. Or visit ketaminechicago.com, KETAMINE Chicago.com.
Okay, I got to tell you this. 122 WGN, it's Anna here. Early morning, stay safe, stay connected with Morgan Kochmeyer's weather forecast, Sarah Gindra's traffic reports. It's all weekdays, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. on WGN TV Morning News. Okay, we're talking about businesses. Should we help more businesses reopen? Is it getting kind of silly to not allow them to do it if they can figure out a way to do it social distancing and make it safe? The other issue we didn't bring up is the state and city revenues being lost by all of this too. You know, you're starting to look at a situation. Didn't the mayor just announce something really, like a really big number?
She's talking about it right now. She said it looks like probably a $700 million deficit for the 2020 budget.
Whew. Wow. That's sobering.
Sobering. Open the bars.
Yeah, right. That's a perfect segue. Thank you, Steve Bertrand. Let's talk to Hagen Dost. He is the brew pub owner at Dovetail there in the Ravenswood corridor. And Hagen was at the meeting last night, I think it was last night or yesterday afternoon, with the city licensing committee, I believe, making the plea about trying to say, hey, we can do this. We can figure out a way for brew pubs to open. Hagen, thanks for calling in to WGN.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I should mention, Hagen and I you're one of the leading voices in this whole thing to try to help brew pubs. But you and I went to high school together at Lane Tech years ago.
We sure did.
It's good to talk to you this way. Say hi to Adrienne, your sister, for me. Yeah, full disclosure, right?
I will.
All right. So you are a very respectful person, and I know that about you. And it seemed as if you respectfully submitted a very clear outline yesterday about the way this can work. Because right now, brew pubs and taverns, and if you're mostly a bar, you can't open at all, right? Is that right? Let's just make sure we get that straight.
So brew pubs can actually open. What we are is we're a production brewery with a tap room, and we don't have a food license, and we don't have an outdoor space. So we're kind of stuck in the middle here, and the thing that we wanted to point out yesterday was that. We think it's a really good idea that the city that the city is allowing mixed drinks to go from taverns, but we think it doesn't go far enough, and we don't think it's anything malicious or any on the city's part. We just think it might be an oversight, and they might just not be familiar with our situation. So we're asking that breweries with tap rooms, and there are about 16 of us here in the city, mostly without patios, just be allowed to have some type of a temporary permission to set up a patio. In our case, in front of our tap room and in the parking lot adjacent to our building, and to do it in a way that meets the guidelines and best practices that have been published by the city.
I'm looking at the transcript here from what you said yesterday, and you sounded very urgent in your appeal to them. You're asking for urgent help. There's a cash flow deficit for our brewery. We're asking reasonable requests to help us right now, basically throw a lifeline to all of us who are trying to make this work. How dire is it, would you say, in your business right now?
I mean, we're here. We're running with a skeleton crew. We have a little bit of a special situation because our business was 65% draft beer, so all of that business went away on March 17th. So we made a quick pivot to canning. And we've been working on selling more of our beer through retail stores, but it's been tough. It's been tough, and we just we need all the help that we can get, especially now that restaurants have started to reopen. We've definitely seen a downturn in our tap room. We converted our tap room to a retail store basically, and we're doing contactless pickup and of beer to go only.
Okay, so your proposal is very lengthy, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. So let's just basically, though, you would like to say, hey, if I have a brew pub, if I have a tavern, allow us to use our outdoor space, social distancing, all those rules in effect. That's what you want?
That's what we want, and we'd like to be able to do it following. Our idea was following a pilot self-certification model where we're business owners in good standing with the city, and we've been shown that we operate responsibly. So we'd just like to, still submit the required patio permits, but be able to open our patio right away.
Mm-hmm. When the mayor was asked about it, why carve out this and why not allow brew pubs and taverns and people that serve mostly alcohol, the response was, hey, I feel when people are drinking alcohol, they're going to let their guard down and there won't be social distancing, and that's the major issue and the reason why you were treated so differently from restaurants. Do you agree with that?
I think she has a point there, and what we would like to do, though, is we would like to be able to encourage our patrons to bring food, which many times they do anyway, and during normal operations. We'd like to be able to bring or invite food trucks in front of our building, But I'd also like to point out that even at restaurants, there's nothing saying that you have to order food when you sit down. So there's really not much of a difference there.
Right, it's a distinction without a difference, because you're right. You can do that right now, and people, I'm sure, are. They just go there, you order drinks. They don't say, oh, we have to order food as well. They're currently doing what this is sort of restricting others from being able to do.
Yep.
And it's an industry that's tough hit. It sounds like you guys have figured out a pivot and a little bit of a way to generate income in the meantime, but so many of the bars and restaurants are not in that same position.
Right. Well, we think we have, and we have lots of local restaurants here that are offering takeout and delivery now. So there's lots of options for people.
Yeah. Hagen, just tell us, we just have a few seconds here, but tell us, if we were to go by and were to order something to go, what would be the beer you'd recommend, or you got any recommendations of stuff your customers are really liking these days?
Oh, for these hot days, you got to go with a Helles lager or with our house lager, which we just call lager. But if you like wheat beers, the Hefeweizen, perfect.
Awesome. You came by for the Carnival wagon when I was with Rokan, and it was so delicious.
Yeah.
So to time, it was very fun. And so to time when we can do that again, I hope very soon. Thanks, Hagen.
I hope so too. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good luck with the effort too. Hagen Dost there. He's the owner of Dovetail Brew Pub in the Ravenswood area, the Ravenswood corridor there, where they have a number of brew pubs. And so he's the one making the appeal on behalf of the other men and women in that industry. We'll see what happens. It's bottom of the hour. Let's go to the newsroom, the Northwestern Medicine newsroom, and get the news.
It is 89 degrees at 1:30. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Bertrand. We're getting a look at the budget deficit because of the coronavirus. That's coming up after traffic. Here's Lauren Lapka.
Edens and Kennedy look good. Outbound Eisenhower stop and go between Laramie and First Avenue. Right now it's 37 minutes out to 390 and a half hour back in. No issues on the Stevenson. Traffic also heavy outbound on the Dan Ryan from Garfield. It's 18 out to 95th. Road work on I-80-94 West has closed the entrance ramp at Grant until June 30th. And on the south side, 83rd is blocked between Exchange and Commercial because of stuck railroad crossing gates. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
The forecast from the Permaseal Weather Center: windy, warm, humid today. Showers and thunderstorms coming in, likely a high around 90 degrees. We're just about there. Gusting winds up to 45 miles an hour. Showers and storms likely tonight. Continued windy, a low near 70, and then a high of 80 tomorrow. But again, a chance of rain and windy conditions. Right now at O'Hare, it is 89, 91 at Midway. It is 85 at Chicago's Lakefront. The city of Chicago has canceled all of its major summer festivals because of the coronavirus pandemic. That includes the Taste of Chicago and Lollapalooza. All of the cancellations result in lost tax revenue. Mayor Lightfoot says the city is facing a $700 million shortfall for the 2020 budget. She says raising property taxes has to be on the table. And hundreds of mourners are packing a Houston church today for the funeral of George Floyd. Some 6,000 people attended a public memorial service yesterday. Your money on WGN. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 245 points. The NASDAQ up 45. That's off its high for the day. And the S&P 500 trading lower by 20. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
132, continuing the conversation about should we just allow businesses to reopen if they can figure out a way to do that safely? Should we stop holding them back? Let's go to the phones again. Mike, go ahead. You're on WGN. Your thoughts on this? You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing? How you doing today?
All right, Mike.
I'm very angry, very frustrated because my work's now because of I got to go in people's homes to do work. And our company's going to basically shut us back down because they're too worried about getting sued and stuff. And and I found out 2 of my places are shut down for good because that we're just too much being off. And I think if people could destroy our cities and riot and loot, we should be able to open up. There's no more COVID. Honestly, it's a big joke already to this point.
Well, it's been reduced substantially, even if you look at the data, and a lot of them, 50% of our cases are in nursing homes. We definitely know we have a problem in vulnerable populations, and that's out there. But you're right. Does that restrict the whole economy of the state and the city at this point? Mike, what type of work do you do?
I'm a pipe fitter, and I'm outside contractor working for Nightcore Gas.
Mm-hmm. And you said a couple of the locations you believe will shut down permanently?
Well, no.
Just shut down.
I had a couple of places like used to go to a smoothie place like 3 times a week, and they're shut down permanently now because they said they couldn't afford to stay open anymore.
Yeah.
What it is we have to go in after we run people's gas lines to each house. We have to go in and relight, and due to the fact of all the restrictions, they don't want us going in people's homes right now. So we got probably the last week of outside work that we got, and we might be sitting home for about another 3 weeks. So I'm not happy. I think, like I said, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell people it's okay to destroy your cities and state, but yet it's okay to sit home and wait till the COVID thing. Like I said, COVID thing's over. It was scary at the beginning. And the more you get out now, the better, because the ultraviolet rays destroys it. So,
all right, Mike, we're going to talk to a doctor soon coming up here on the show. Thanks for your thoughts, and thank you for calling in. Hang in there with everything. What Mike's point is, you heard cries from the industry, the restaurant industry, a little while ago saying, hey, 25% of these businesses might not reopen. And at that time, it says, are you sure? Is that real? And now you're starting to see that it's not just restaurants, of course, but across different small business industries, you are seeing that they're shutting for good. They're not reopening. They couldn't make it through this long without any kind of income. Stan, let's go to you now. You're on WGN. Your thoughts on all this conversation?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
I'm
all right.
I'm not too keen on this reopening so fast. I think a lot of people are getting a little tired, maybe sitting in the homes and stuff like that. But we well know that the effects of this coronavirus or what was going on took more African American people of color lives. So when people talk about going back out and, well, we're going to just go back out, they're not looking at the people who it really affects. And when they talk about now it's just hospital stays, people in the hospital, who do you think are those hospital stays? African American people of color.
People don't know conditions as well.
And the menial jobs that they talking about, well, we can go back out. I heard Dr. John Najarian, I'm talking about the economy needs to reopen. We just herd immunity. Sometimes people, who are you talking about that herd immunity of people who dying? Of leaving families behind, leaving children behind. Who do you think you're talking about?
It's the sad part of it all that it is still claiming lives, and I get that point.
See, that just goes to show that people really don't care about lives. They don't care about lives. They kind of, because we know that this systematic racism that went on through many of years is the reason why so many people have poor health conditions and working these menial jobs, and that's what. And so when that affects them, it's because of we don't hey, it's not affecting us. It's more of them dying. They're going to die. We're not going to die. So I just look at it like that. That when you talk about hospital stays and everything, who do you think them hospital stays going to be?
There's no question it has disproportionately affected the African American community. Absolutely true. And there are a number of reasons for that, and you're pointing out some of them. I mean, the access to health care, their underlying conditions, and people who are not in a situation where there's a poverty element to it. There are all kinds of things that are not fair about it.
And you're talking about not only that, you're talking about maybe being a second wave. So if there's maybe a second wave, as they say, and there's going to be a second wave, who do you think that second wave affects?
Stan, what do you think, though? I mean, I think when people saw all the protests and that was okay, and we understand, again, the underlying reason for the protests.
And them people, they're outside, and maybe that's something, but when you go into these confined areas and you take this back home in these confined areas, and
but won't they take it back? Aren't those people then taking it back? Are you concerned about that?
Well, when I listen to a lot of people now, which I listen to a lot of you, they say being outside is more healthier. I mean, but you're not going the actual you being able to contract it more outside is less because you got the air, you got the outside. Nobody's really. And I've seen some of the protesters actually wearing masks. Mm-hmm. So, but I just look at it like that. If you're talking about a second wave, who do you think that second wave is going to affect now?
Yeah.
You're going to be leaving children at home. You're going to be leaving families with who's going to take care of these kids?
Thank you.
Mothers and fathers. That's all I'm saying. I understand.
I appreciate it, Stan. Thanks for weighing in too. There's so much there, and I am going to talk to Dr. Steve Salzman in just a few minutes here. He's going to be calling in. there are issues with outdoor and indoor. There are issues with race, and you look at the numbers and the disproportionate effects on certain communities. You look at underlying conditions, and the people with underlying conditions who happen to fall more in the minority community, those people are sincerely and severely more impacted as a result of all this. And I get the concerns. I just feel like if you can allow a business to open, and do so safely, that you should allow that business to survive. And if you wear masks, as he was pointing out, as Stan was talking about, you can socially distance, you can put people 6 feet apart, and you can still figure out a way to help these folks survive. Let's move on, though. I want to talk about coronavirus and travel, what you should know as you make your summer plans. Here's the deal. Surveys are kind of showing when they ask people what you're going to do this summer, and I don't know if you fall into this category, but here's the deal. They're saying shorter vehicle trips are the most popular this summer. Based on the research, all states are expecting some travel to pick up July or August with more road trips, fewer flights, shorter trips closer to home, more in-state travel, traversing within your own backyard. Some are even making their backyards a vacation spot even. I mean, I heard from a friend over the weekend, they built a tree house in their yard, a really cool one, and another person who was like doing the above ground pool thing. And those are actually kind of hard to find, I'm told, if you want to get an above ground pool, if you just kind of want to, even the non-fancy types, if you just want to get one of those, not easy to find. But people are doing up their backyards even, Puerto Backyarda, that's what I call it, go on a vacation in your own backyard. You kind of make things really cool and that kind of stuff. But there's an interesting point there. Stan even raised it about indoor versus outdoor, what's safe, what's not. I'm going to ask Dr. Steve about that in just a second because we're going to go through it. The epidemiologists have looked at all sorts of summer activities and ranked them and rated them based on their risk and what kinds of things to look out for. But a couple other things to note. Walt Disney World has announced it's going to begin allowing visitors to some of its parks starting this week. I think it's Friday, or is it Thursday? July 11th. What's that, 2 days away? Visitors need to make reservations in advance. The temperatures will be taken. You'll wear a mask as you enter the park. Las Vegas casinos and hotels have been given the all clear to allow guests starting. It already started, most of them. Some are still opening up slowly. Visitors are returning to many popular beaches across the country. Major airlines now require passengers and crew members to wear masks during flights and implementing other safety protocols, boarding and keeping middle seats empty. Although, I don't know about you, if you look at social media, people who are flying are posting pictures of themselves, and there seem like an awfully lot of packed flights out there. If you've taken a flight, I don't know what your experience is, but that's happening. America's national parks, most of which are mostly or partially closed right now, are beginning to open with special precautions and restrictions in place. So no form of travel is perfectly safe. No environment is perfectly safe right now. But let's talk to Dr. Steve Salzman about some of this as we look at some of the summertime activities and take a look at how it is from a doctor's perspective. How you doing, Dr. Steve?
Okay, let's try to make some happy instead of...
It's a lot of stress. It's a stressful environment. It really is, Dr. Steve. And, summer is a time when you get to let go a little bit. Typically, this summer is going to be so weird and so different for so many of us. And so it's interesting to take a look, like the different types of activities that people are doing, from getting on a plane to, driving to renting a car to staying in a hotel and all sorts of stuff in between. And trying to look at, what are the things to watch out for? What are the things that you consider the riskiest? You want to go through this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's just arbitrarily, let's start at, say, hotels, because if you're going to go somewhere, you got to stay somewhere unless you're staying at someone's house, right? So, if you break things down, it's the same things that you have to be worried about. What's the greatest risk of transmission? The close contact with other people. So you got to, consider social distancing and wearing masks, especially like places like lobbies and elevators. And again, you want to look into maybe checking sanitizing policies, but regardless of what anything does, I think sort of standard in your baggage should be wipes and hand sanitizer, right? Certainly with what everything's going on. I don't know if you can ask for a vacant room for several days if you really want to go sort of lower the risk to 0%. You talks about how long does the virus stay on surfaces and then how long is it virulent. So I suppose if you get a room that hasn't been, been attended or touched in several days, everything should be dead by then. Mm-hmm. Airbnbs might be potentially another way to go. Less contact with people. Again, I mean, depending on how the cleaning is with where you're staying, bringing cleaning supplies and sanitizers and hand wipes and all that other stuff. We talk about rental cars. You know, the rental car companies, if you look into it, has these enhanced cleaning procedures. Obviously, again, if you know a car's been vacant for several days and not touched, probably better. But again, how do you know that? You know, the rental car person says, oh, yeah, hasn't been touched in several days. What do they know? You know, they know as much as anybody else knows. So, you know, I don't know how you could actually do some of these things. But the number one question I'm getting from my patients with regards to stuff is flying versus driving.
Yes.
And, yeah, several patients of mine are currently out of town, have been stuck out of town since COVID, and want to come back in because they're snowbirds and they want to come back into the area for the summer. And there is no right answer. The answer is it depends. How long is the flight? How crowded is the flight? I mean, anecdotally, let's take a look at some of the pictures. It looks like, you know, oh my God, it's horrifying. It's like cattle put together. I mean, you know, if you want to talk about a petri dish, sort of there it is. You know, but again, if you're flying on a plane where you can actually have masks and social distancing and it's not so packed and crowded, I think, you know, that might be better than, say, driving for several days, perhaps having to stop in multiple different places. So, you know, it sort of all depends. How many stops, who's in the car, where are you going, you know, well, what are the provisions that can be made? So there are so many factors that go into what's better. And unfortunately, I got to be honest, Anna, some of them you're not going to know. Yeah, the flight's 70% packed or 60% packed, and then it's oversold, you know? So right. I don't know how that all sort of shakes out. Some of the better things, beaches, absolutely going outside.
Hey, Dr. Steve, before we move forward from air travel, can we pause just for a moment here? Can you stick around with us? Because
sure.
Just break a second here, and we'll be right back with more and continue the conversation. Dr. Steve Salzman, Green Care Medical. And I do want to ask you one more thing about air travel before we move on from there. So we'll continue the conversation the other side of this.
Lou Manfredini here for the Gilkey Window Company. You know, one thing that drew me to Gilkey is they're a family-owned company that cares about your family, too. Gilkey sells their windows directly to consumers, so no middleman markups. They can build better, more energy-efficient windows and pass that savings on to you. Right now, take $1,000 off 5 or more windows, $2,500 off